What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with the official playoff predictions from FSE. Again, we're a fantasy football channel, so we usually get into more fantasy football stuff. But the NFL playoffs are approaching in the next couple days. We figured we'd get a official predictions video out and go through a playoff bracket ourselves. Feel free to comment any of your thoughts down below. Like the video if you enjoy as well, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you're a fantasy player and this is the first video of ours that you're watching, make sure you subscribe to the channel for all the fantasy information that we can provide you. But Danny, how are you doing today?
Doing well. And yeah, ready to preview some playoff matchups. I've already seen a lot of fugas, a lot of hate. I'm not going to name teams, but you guys can pretty much figure it out by looking at my background right now. But yeah, I'm not going to make this all about the Cowboys, because at the end of the day here, there are indeed 6 great matchups to look forward to this weekend and beyond. And honest to God, I'm just happy to be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm happy to be back defending our Super Bowl championship in the playoffs. So without further ado, we're going to hit the intro and we're going to get right into this. So what we're going to do, basically, we're going to go through the wild card round, spend a little bit more time on that just because we know these are the games that are going to happen. And we're just going to give our, general thoughts, how these teams match up with each other. Because I think you and I both are big proponents of, once you get to the playoffs, it's not necessarily who's the better team. It's how these teams match up with each other because, any given Sunday, of course, we know any team can beat any team. It's all kind of how each other matches up. So obviously now with the Raiders making the playoffs and their thrilling season finale win over the Chargers, we can start with that game because it is the first, chronologically. So Raiders and Bengals, 4 seed and 5 seed versus each other. Obviously the Titans and Packers are both on bye, so they do not play in the first round. What are your thoughts on this game? I'll let you talk about the spread and stuff like that too.
Yeah, so the current spread, Bengals are 5.5 point home favorites, minus 5.5, and the over/under is currently listed at 48.5. And in terms of those actual odds, in terms of picking against the spread and picking the over/under, I actually think this game's going to go over, and I think that the Raiders are going to cover the 5.5 points. Reason being, again, like we did see these teams match up recently, obviously with the Bengals taking that 132-13 in Las Vegas. I just think that the Raiders have been playing a different brand of football. Obviously, we saw their thrilling overtime win against the Chargers, which comparatively from an offensive perspective is a decently similar comparison to what the Bengals represent, obviously with that vertical passing game. But the Raiders just seem like a type of team that are going to scrap, are going to make this close. And I wouldn't be shocked if this came down to a walk-off field goal on either way. And in terms of the over, like these offenses, both of them have really been playing their best ball recently. So I don't necessarily see this being a game that, is 20-17, 20-24, fucking 14 or whatever. Like I do think that there's going to be points scored in either way.
Yeah, I think the big key to both teams really is their running backs in this game, because back in whatever week that was week 11, Joe Mixon went 30 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Bengals, and basically led them to a victory because Joe Burrow only had like 147 yards passing in that game, because the Raiders are a very, very run funnel defense. They're pretty good against the pass, one of the better teams in the league. In fact, against the pass, because their corners and safeties and all those guys have been playing really well this year. But their run defense is not good, and Joe Mixon exposed them back in week 11. And on the flip side too, Josh Jacobs has been playing super well, probably the best in his career the last like 6, 7, 8 games that we've seen him on the field. And he's a big reason why they won that game against the Chargers, because Josh Jacobs was 2 big runs to get them into field goal range and help them secure that win in overtime.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there as you go handle Josie. But yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs has been playing some very good ball. Obviously, we saw those 2 huge runs that really set them up to set the tone against the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is going to be a close game, man. Again, a lot of people are going to come out here. A lot of people are going to automatically picture the Bengals as this dark horse team in the AFC while writing off the Raiders. But again, walk-off type of field goal is how I see it. And I personally think that the Raiders are going to get the revenge on the Bengals, going to come out and win this game. But because it's a 50-50, I'll let you have the final say on who wins this matchup straight up. But either way, I like the Raiders against the spread, and I like the over hidden here.
Yeah, it is. The Raiders have the veteran experience, I would say, like the Bengals, young team, young offense, young quarterback. all that stuff taken into consideration, I think the Bengals are the better team personally, and they do kind of match up with what the Raiders want to do, which is run the ball. And they rank 13th in rush defense DVOA. I think they'll be able to take care of Josh Jacobs, and I'm not sure the Raiders have the weapons on the outside with Darren Waller still like semi banged up. Renfro is obviously going to help them move the chains, but I do like the Bengals slightly. Like you said, like walk-off field goal type of win. I think it's going to be really close.
Yep, I'm definitely fine conceding that because, again, I do think that game can go either way. But either way, we spent about 5-6 minutes on that game. Let's go on to the next game. And this is the Saturday night game, y'all. This is 8:15 Saturday night, January 15th. We got the New England Patriots traveling on the road to play against the Buffalo Bills, an intra-divisional matchup. Obviously, we've seen these teams match up twice already this season. Obviously, the first game in Buffalo, New England just ran the ball and completely dominated that game. And then on the flip side, in New England, Buffalo took care of business. Buffalo was a 4-point favorite in this one, and the current over-under line is only 42.5. Where are you leaning here?
Yeah. So in both games, the interesting thing is that the Patriots were able to run the ball extremely well in both games. The Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, what did Mac Jones throw? 3 passes the first time that they beat them? Like they ran the ball all over Buffalo. We've seen Buffalo get run over by Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, a bunch of running backs this year. And the Bills, the third time around, I don't think they're going to be able to do it 3 times. I don't think you're going to get Damian Harris rushing for over 100 yards 3 times against the Bills in one season. I think the Bills' primary focus is going to be to stop the run and make Mac Jones beat them through the air, which I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to do. Because if they can't run the ball in this game, not only does Buffalo have a really good secondary and a really good pass defense in general, I don't think from what I've seen from Mac Jones, he's capable of carrying this team through the air.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And people are overlooking the fact that, yes, although New England was able to run the ball against Buffalo, and, that is going to be a factor in this game, absolutely. We still got a rookie quarterback playing in his first playoff game in Buffalo. Like, this is a tough matchup for Mac Jones to be able to overcome. Now, am I going to write off Bill Belichick and what Mac Jones has shown to be this year? No, I do think that this is going to be a relatively close 1-score type of game. But I do think that the Bills are going to cover in this one. They're currently 4-point favorites. I think they win this one by at least a touchdown. Talking about, 6-7 point type of game. Because at the end of the day here, Josh Allen, the way he's been playing recently on this current 4-game win streak, is enough for me to favor the Bills in a home playoff matchup, particularly against a team that, let's be honest here, Bills fans absolutely hate with the New England Patriots.
The one factor that is kind of like an external thing that could affect this game is weather, because it's in Buffalo, right? So depending on the weather, it's supposed to be really cold, and like 10 miles per hour winds. If there's any like snow or, rain or whatever the case is, that definitely probably lends itself to the Patriots probably getting a better chance of winning this game. If it's clear conditions, not quite as cold, no precipitation or whatever, I think the Bills will probably win this one easily, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and it's odd enough that we're saying that the home team could be most affected by the weather in terms of negatively being impacted if it's cold. But yeah, I mean, like on paper, the Bills are the better team. They have the better quarterback. They're at home. Like, I think they win this game like 21-14.
Yeah, the only way they lose is if Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson go hog wild again. It's the only way they lose, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I fully agree with you there. So we will have the Bills winning that one. The next matchup actually slated in terms of chronological order this weekend is actually going to be the Dallas Cowboys hosting the San Francisco 49ers. So Vegas currently has this as a Cowboys 3-point favorite, so -3 in terms of betting odds. And then in terms of the over-under, we're actually 50.5. So you guys kind of know where I'm going to lean. I'll let you talk up this matchup a little bit, and then I'll kind of counterpoint what I think about it.
Yeah, I think the Niners are the most dangerous team in the playoffs right now, just because they have the capability of knocking off anybody, simply how their offense matches up against defenses. Because against Deebo Samuel, he's lined up all over the field, right? We don't know where he's going to be. If he was a traditional X wide receiver and you had a lockdown corner like the Rams have or like the Packers have, it's a lot easier to take Deebo Samuel out of the game. But Deebo Samuel's lined up all over the field. He's used in the run game. He's used out wide as a receiver in the slot, whatever the case is. And then also you have to worry about George Kittle, who basically presents the same problems Deebo Samuel presents, except at tight end, where you can't really hone in on him and take him away with, one good safety or one good linebacker or whatever. So because of that, I think the Niners are one of the most dangerous offenses in the playoffs right now. And I don't think any defense is capable of actually stopping those two players. The real like pivot point is how does Jimmy Garoppolo play? Because we've seen some really bad Jimmy Garoppolo games this year against like the Titans on Thursday night a couple weeks ago, a couple other bad games where Jimmy Garoppolo has single-handedly lost his team the game or, been the reason why the game was close in the first place. So Garoppolo versus Dak is obviously going to favor Dak Prescott. And I think the Cowboys defense is fast enough, has enough like team speed to keep up with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So I think of the defenses that are currently in the playoffs, the Cowboys and then probably the Bucs are best equipped to stop Deebo Samuel or to limit Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So I'll take the Cowboys, but I think this is definitely upset potential. The 49ers, two biggest playmakers and their front seven too, has been pretty good this year. So I could see them upsetting the Cowboys, but I will take the Cowboys at home.
Yeah, and I do agree with you from a matchup standpoint. Like the 49ers do pose their own problems with the Cowboys. Obviously, Deebo Samuel, the versatility, lining up in the backfield, lining up really anywhere on the field can impact the game at any moment. And then with George Kittle, in my opinion, the most talented tight end in the league. But I'm glad that you mentioned that the Cowboys, from a speed and personnel standpoint, are one of the few defenses that are actually equipped to handle this 49ers attack. In terms of actually just straight up running the ball with Elijah Mitchell, we've kind of seen with DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and Randy Gregory on the field that teams haven't really been able to do that. Even when they lost to the Cardinals, Chase Edmonds averaged just about 2 yards per carry, which, again, different team. But it just kind of goes to show you that the Cowboys haven't been this susceptible run defense that we're kind of used to seeing after last year. And I'm glad you mentioned Micah Parsons is going to be the biggest difference maker in this game, because if you want to beat the 49ers, you have to neutralize Deebo Samuel. And Micah Parsons is the one athlete on the field that is going to be able to track him laterally. I'm not even talking about vertically. I'm talking about laterally, because that's the main reason why I would be worried of a Deebo Samuel in this game. In his motion, getting the ball out of the backfield, getting the ball in the screen bubble game. Like, we need Micah Parsons to be able to make those plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. So in terms of how this game script can kind of go, it fully depends on how this game starts. If the Cowboys can start, get hot on offense, build up a lead, I do think that this is potential to, be a double-digit point type of win. However, again, if the 49ers play it tough and the Cowboys offense isn't firing on all bases, because let's be honest here, it is a matchup with the Cowboys passing offense when they're on their game versus really any defense, particularly the Niners. If it doesn't get off hot, I can absolutely see the Niners winning this game. And in terms of the spread, again, I think the Cowboys should win it, but I don't know. You mentioned the 49ers are a very dangerous team, so I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but I do think that from a personnel standpoint, from a matchup standpoint, from a quarterback standpoint, I'd be very disappointed if we lost this game.
Yeah, this is the classic blocking and tackling game. Like, you got to tackle Deebo and Kittle because they're capable of breaking tackles. Same goes for Mitchell in the run game and Ayuk when he gets the ball in his hand too. And then blocking, obviously, Nick Bosa and the 49ers front and that situation. We haven't really talked about the Cowboys offense, but with the Cardinals secondary being as banged up as it is, if they want 49ers to do well through the air, I think they should be able to. And if they don't, it's probably a result of the 49ers pass rush and probably no other reason for that. So yeah, we're going to take the Cowboys. But again, this is probably, of all the games in the wild card round, the low seed beating the high seed. I think I would be least shocked by this one. Maybe the one that we're going to talk about in a second. Yeah. But this one is also one that I could see the lowest seed beating the high seed.
For sure. So in terms of spread and in terms of betting odds, -3, where are you leaning on both those? I'll take the over and Cowboys covering.
I'll actually take the Niners to cover, but I'm going to take the under. So I'm going to do the opposite of you, basically. I think this is, again, like you said, whoever gets out to a faster start is probably going to win this game. I think because if the Niners get ahead, they can run the ball, control the game, whatever. And if the Cowboys get ahead, I don't trust Garoppolo to be able to throw them back into the game.
Yep, definitely. So we're on to the next game, and that's going to be the Sunday night game where your Tampa Bay, this is actually the 1 p.m. game. I mixed it up. Either way, scratch that. Cowboys play at 4:30. The Bucks Eagles are actually at 1. It showed up wrong in terms of my feed because of my phone. Favorite team. Either way, Eagles Buccaneers hosting the Eagles. Current odds on this game, Tampa Bay is 8.5-point home favorites, and the over/under is 49. Off first look, where are you leaning here?
Well, against the spread, I probably would take the Eagles. And the reason is because they do present some challenges for the Bucks. It's like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to look at this game and just be like, oh, this is Bucks easy. You got a second-year quarterback in his first playoff game against, a 44-year-old MVP candidate who's been to the playoffs a million times. I don't think this one should be close, but I think it will be, to be honest, because Jalen Hurts, much like Taylor Heineke in last year's wildcard round, his legs present a big challenge for Tampa Bay, and his legs were the reason that they were still in the game back in week 6 when these two teams already played. The biggest difference maker in this game, and I've already kind of said this for other games too, is how well does Leonard Fournette play? Because Leonard Fournette was the reason that they won that week 6 game, and he ran all over this Eagles defense in that game. So the Bucs should win this one, but Darius Slay is probably going to be, matching Mike Evans in coverage. Rob Gronkowski and Leonard Fournette are probably going to have to be the guys that do the damage for the Bucs passing game and for the run game, obviously with Fournette as well. So this game, like I said, I think it's going to be closer than people think, but I do think the Bucs win this one at home.
Yep, I fully agree. I actually do agree with you. I think the Eagles will cover this game, even if it's just an 8-point Tampa win. I think 8.5 is a little bit too bloated of a line because the Eagles have been playing relatively good recently, apart from when they literally benched everyone last week. And in terms of the over-under, I actually think this game's going to go over because I do think, again, you mentioned the matchup problems that the Eagles rushing game could present to you in terms of Jalen Hurts maybe having an impact. And then from a flip side perspective, I just don't really see a way that they can keep up with you guys in terms of your offense. So
right, and two of the fastest paced offenses in the league too. Yeah. So overs are usually likely to hit when you have a situation like that. So yeah, we'll take the Bucs as the number 2 seed moving on, and I'll let you kind of preview the next game.
Yep, for sure. This is the Monday night game. Actually, we got the Sunday night game. I'm all over the place. Sorry about that. We actually do have the Sunday night football game. The Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Current lines here, KC Chiefs are 12.5-point home favorites, and the over-under is currently listed at 45.5. I don't think we have to make much of a claim here. I think we're both relatively in agreement that the Chiefs are going to cover this game. I mean, do you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, there's the factor that this is probably Ben's last game, and they could come out to play for Ben Roethlisberger. And I do think they have some players on their offense that give matchup problems for the Chiefs, mainly Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth, probably because those guys just, with Deontay, he just separates at will and he's able to make plays after the catch. And then Freiermuth has been such a good red zone threat that I could see them, if they're able to move the ball consistently, Freiermuth providing some big time problems for them. But I think the Chiefs are just outclassing them in terms of the Chiefs offense versus the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense outside of TJ Watt has not been, the lockdown unit that they've been in recent years. And the Chiefs should be able to utilize Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce as usual, and get the job done that way. And also run the ball probably pretty well against the Steelers run defense as well.
Yep. No, I fully agree with you. I think, again, we don't like to use past results to indicate future results. You can frame that, by the way, but I mean, I think it's just going to be such a similar game to what we saw already this season when the Chiefs took care of business, beat this team 36-10. I just simply see that if the Chiefs are on their game, which they should be on a Sunday night football game going up against Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs, I don't see this being within 3 possessions.
Really? You think it's going to be a blowout?
Yeah, I think it can get ugly real quick.
The one thing I will say about the Chiefs is that they have played up or down to their competition for the most part. So they could also kind of get out to a slow start, not really move the ball. I could see this first quarter just being 6 punts in this game. And then in the second half and stuff, then the Chiefs really take over. But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at that. Final game of the slate. I'll let you tee this one up.
Yep. And the final game, obviously Monday Night Football. I think I've said that exact phrase 3 times already, but we got the Cardinals traveling on the road for, again, another interdivisional matchup going up against the Los Angeles Rams. This line is currently Rams favored by 4 points at home, and the over under being 49.5. And man, I love the Cardinals in terms of points straight up here. I think 4 is a little too much here to give the Rams. Again, this is a Rams team that has been very volatile recently. Obviously, with Matthew Stafford, you get the highs of him absolutely darting in throws against cover 2. He could do it at will. But on the flip side, I mean, this guy will force things into windows that are non-existent because he trusts his arm so much. We saw it against the 49ers. I mean, that was a game up 17-0. You play good, sound football, and you trust your run game, and you trust your ability to really get rid of that clock, you win that game by double digits against the 49ers. Matthew Stafford making the mistakes that he did in that game is what gave the 49ers life to be able to come back. And we saw once Deebo Samuel was fired up, ready to go after Stafford threw a pick, that game completely flipped on his head. I thought that game last week was going to end up being a 30-point type of blowout the way it started, and we obviously know the result that ended up coming out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And on the flip side too, it's not like the Cardinals have been the model of consistency either, right?
Oh, I
We have
agree.
Kyler Murray since he came back from injury. He's put up 33, 23, 12, 16, 25 and 30 points. So this is an offense that is usually hot and cold. Like we've seen in a number of games against the Lions, against the Colts, against the Cowboys, that their offense has gotten off to really slow starts and not been very good. And then we've seen them, back in week 13 against the Bears, they were really efficient. And then last week against the Seahawks, they also were able to put up 30 points in that game too. So this is kind of like a battle of two inconsistent teams that could either be the best team in the league one week or could be one of the worst teams in the NFC the next week. So this game is really interesting. I talked about how the 49ers were the lower seed upsetting the higher seed the most likely. I think this is definitely up there as well, with the Cardinals being the 5 seed, Rams being the 4 seed. I would not be shocked at all if the Cardinals won this game, and they actually beat the Rams on the road earlier in the season when they played each other. But the Cardinals, the big reason why I do think the Rams will probably win this game is because Kyler Murray has not shown me why, he's an elite quarterback in this league in a long time. Like it's been a while since Kyler Murray single-handedly won a game.
Yeah, and I do agree with that preface again. By the way, Matthew Stafford's the same way too to me. Again, like they're both similar quarterbacks, and the highs can be legitimate top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league when they are on their game. Like they genuinely have that type of ceiling, and the lows are quite frankly being able to throw a game away. Like these two teams, in terms of narrative, in terms of how they kind of operate, is so similar to the point where I think the best bet in this game is under 49.5.
Yeah, I could see both. This is another game where I could see like 6 punts by, midway through the second quarter, and neither team can do anything. For what it's worth, PFF actually has the matchup for the Rams offensive line versus the Cardinals defensive line as the Rams heavily favored in that matchup. And vice versa. They think the Rams defensive line is going to overwhelm the Cardinals offensive line. So that's another reason why I think the Rams will probably win this game is the classic trench argument. I think they're better on both sides of the trenches. Not that the Cardinals have a bad defensive line or anything, but the Rams have a good enough offensive line that they should be able to withstand their pass rush.
Yep. No, I agree. Again, Rams straight up is probably the best, bet if you were to pick which team's going to win. In terms of, again, the over-under and the spread, I think this is going to be a 23-20 type of game. And I do think, again, as I mentioned, both the under and the Cardinals covering is going to be the case this game.
Yep. Don't disagree there. So that is the wild card round. That's what we think is going to happen. Obviously, we have the most information about this round because it hasn't happened yet. Divisional round, this is probably not what it's going to look like. I'm sure we're going to get some predictions wrong. But just based on the bracket that we've done so far, we're going to continue to go. We'll obviously spend a little bit less time on these games because they might not ever happen than we did on the wild card round. So let's start with the first one. We'll just go left to right here. We'll go Bills at Chiefs. Obviously, the 3 seed versus the 2 seed. We saw this in the AFC Championship last year. Bills played the Chiefs, and the Chiefs obviously ended up winning that game, going on to the Super Bowl to lose to the best team in the world, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Bills versus Chiefs, where are you leaning in this rematch of last year's AFC Championship?
It's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs. I know you're gonna poke the other side into consideration after this, but again, we're gonna mention how the Bills have been a changed team because they indeed in the last matchup they were not able to run the ball last year. But on the flip side, I do think that the Chiefs defense as a whole has been playing better recently comparatively to even what they did last year. And we know the offensive line has improved by spades. I mean, with Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, occupying that interior as rookies, like Creed Humphrey's probably the best center in the NFL right now. Like he's genuinely been that good as a rookie. PFF's highest graded center this year. He's been remarkable, and he's really helped them create an identity on the ground game that realistically they hadn't had. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when he's been healthy, for what it's worth, hasn't been bad. Darrell Williams, we've seen being able to come out of nowhere recently. Derek Gore's been good. Like I genuinely think that adding balance to this Chiefs offense has really helped them find their identity because we know what they're able to present when that passing game gets going. But I really do think that the Chiefs are going to be able to run the ball surprisingly well against Buffalo. Because let's be honest here, the Buffalo fucking Bills have been an absolute run sieve to say the least. I mean, every team that has even a capable running back, you talking about me in the backfield, has been able to rush for 100 yards on them. So overall, again, I do think this can be a higher scoring game, obviously, with the nature of having Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes facing off. But I personally would lean the Chiefs at home here, but I do see this being a coin flip type of game.
Yeah, and like as you mentioned, the nature of the Bills' offense has been to pass the ball in recent years, but Singletary has been a lot better
Yeah,
as their like lockdown primary running back for the last like 4 games or so. And Singletary and the Bills' running backs were pretty much non-existent in the AFC Championship last year.
correct.
Singletary rushed for like 17 yards on like 6 carries. Zach Moss wasn't even active for the game; he was out. And then I don't even know who else was on the roster last year who was running the ball for them. Either way, I think
Probably
the Bills
Frank
having
Gore.
some semblance of balance, being able to run the ball, similar to just what you said about the Chiefs, I think is going to bode well for them into the playoffs. Obviously, this one will be in Arrowhead, probably some weather conditions, so running the ball will probably be very helpful for both teams.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who can do it better, I think, and which quarterback is able to be more efficient. I tend to think that the Bills team that I've seen this year is a little bit more complete than the Chiefs team that I've seen this year. I think there's more inconsistencies with the Chiefs, so I personally would take the Bills straight up in this game. I know it's at home for Kansas City, but I got a feeling about this Bills team. I think this is the year that they go a little bit deeper in the playoffs than they did last year.
You know, I'm fine with seeding this one now because I know the later game we're going to mention is going to seed my way because we talked about it before recording. But either way, I will seed. I'll give Buffalo the edge here. In terms of Titans Bengals, listen, I love this Bengals team. They are so much fun to watch with the verticality that they present in the passing game. But again, we're talking about it before recording. The Titans have been sneaky good in terms of being able to stop opposing passing attacks. And from a stylistic comparison in terms of what the Titans offense from a physicality standpoint is able to bring to this game, I simply think that they're going to be able to overwhelm the Bengals. And I actually do lean the Titans here coming off the bye.
Yeah, and we've seen a Titans team get a number 1 seed this year when pretty much everything went wrong. Their star receivers were both banged up all season. Their star running back has missed the last like 8 games, and they've still been able to secure the number 1 seed in the AFC. And we're getting quite literally the best Titans team we've gotten probably in the last couple of years with all these guys back on the field. Julio, Derrick Henry, and AJ Brown all back on the field now. Like you said, I don't think they're going to be able to handle Derrick Henry, assuming he is back to 100% Derrick Henry in this game. So I will take the Titans against the Bengals as well. And also the factor I kind of talked about with the Bengals against the Raiders. This is a Titans team that's been in the playoffs and gone deep in the playoffs the last 2 seasons, right? Like they have way more playoff experience than what the Bengals are presented with a, second-year quarterback making his first playoff appearance, a rookie wide receiver, second-year wide receiver. Their whole team is just really young, not a lot of playoff experience. So I think the Titans probably edge them out, due in large part to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, we remember what happened. Obviously, again, it's a couple years removed, but man, like the Titans a couple years ago were quite literally up double-digit points on the Chiefs, and had it not been for Patrick Mahomes' brilliance, would have made the Super Bowl that year. So this is a very, very good, very, very sound Titans team. Obviously, a very, very physical team, and again, like kudos to the Bengals. I think they've got a very, very bright future with their superstar quarterback, superstar receiver, plenty of weapons on that team, but to ask a second-year quarterback, a star rookie wide receiver, to go in Tennessee and go up against Derrick Henry and that physical, proven veteran Titans team, I simply will think will be too much. So I do agree, Titans win there. We'll save this top game for last, but we got Rams Packers here, and everything I mentioned about Matthew Stafford comes hold here. If he turns the ball over against Aaron Rodgers, he is not seeing the ball back.
Nope, that is again, we talked about this before, but the Packers are definitely, I think, definitively the most fundamentally sound team in the NFC. They don't turn the ball over. Aaron Rodgers had like 4 interceptions this year. The running backs, AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, they don't fumble the ball. So you can't make mistakes against this Packers team. And I think of the 4 teams remaining in the NFC, the Rams are the most likely to make mistakes because we've seen Stafford try and play hero ball and, whatever he's doing. The Packers will make you pay for that. And the Packers also are getting Jair Alexander back, and David Bakhtiari came back last week. Like, they're the healthiest they've been all season too, which is a scary, thought to think of because they've also, secured the number 1 seed. The Titans and Packers both have done this without some of their best playmakers finishing as the number 1 seed in their conferences. And I think both of them are set up to make deep playoff runs because of it.
Yeah, and we're wondering why 2 of the heaviest coach of the year favorites right now just so happen to be Mike Vrabel and Matt LaFleur. Because again, as you mentioned, the Titans and the Packers are 2 of the most fundamentally sound football teams. They rarely make mistakes. Talk about penalties. Talk about turnovers, talk about miscommunications. Like, we rarely see that happen on either of these teams. So as a result, I mean, they well deserve the 1 seed on either conference, and we do see both of them making their respective championship games. But now, I mean, the main event, if you guys are a fan of FSC, you'll know that this matchup particularly holds really, really close to both of our hearts, and that'll be the Cowboys going on the road for their rematch against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and again, this is a game of matchups, right? Like, both of these teams are capable of going to the Super Bowl. They're both, good enough teams to make the Super Bowl any, given year in the NFC. With the Bucs, you got to wonder if, the injuries are going to catch up with them in a matchup like this, because the Cowboys defense has played at times like the best defense in the league this year. And the Buccaneers, without Chris Godwin, without Antonio Brown, don't really have an answer through the passing game outside of Evans, if he's able to, beat Trayvon Diggs in coverage, which he wasn't able to in week 1. And that could have been a result of the other two guys getting fed and Diggs being the toughest corner on the field. And we all know Brady will not, usually goes after the weaker corners from a matchup perspective. But Evans and Gronkowski and Fournette are going to have a tough time against this Dallas Cowboys defense. I think Gronkowski probably has the best matchup of all those guys, but Fournette and Evans specifically will probably have a difficult time. And then on the flip side, the Buccaneers defense should be good enough to limit the Cowboys outside wide receivers, but Dalton Schultz will probably give them problems, and Tony Pollard in the passing game will probably give them a lot of problems as well. Because again, both of these teams have a number of ways they can beat you, but with the Bucs, a lot of those ways have been limited by the fact that some of those guys are injured. And unless you get, some standout Cyril Grayson, Brashad Perriman, Scotty Miller performances, I just don't know if the Bucs offense is going to be able to put up a whole lot of points against this Cowboys defense. But the one thing I will say is that either of these defenses is capable of taking over this game. We saw the Bucs do it in the playoffs last year. We've seen the Cowboys do it so far this year. If the Bucs defense somehow plays like they did during the playoff run last year against the Saints, against the Chiefs, against the Packers, then the Bucs could definitely win this game. But I can't believe I'm saying this. I tend to think that the Cowboys probably win this.
Yeah, somebody can clip that, but no, all jokes aside, yeah, I mean, I do agree. Again, I do have the utmost respect for Tom Brady. Like, I genuinely would be sick to my stomach going into this week, because quite frankly, if there's one quarterback you don't want to bet on, one player you don't want to bet on, it would be Brady. But man, on paper, stylistically, matchup wise, like, we're the more complete team right now in terms of what we have to offer. Obviously, you guys losing Godwin and AB is a huge detriment to your offense. And with Mike Evans being that singular wideout that we have to worry about, I feel confident in saying that Trayvon Diggs can play him, obviously, the majority of the game like he did in week 1. Now, is he going to have more success than he did week 1? Most likely. It's hard to shut a guy out 2 times in the same season. But yeah, like, in terms of the type of receiver that I would prefer Diggs to match up with, it would be a more physical, lengthy type of guy like Mike Evans, which we kind of seen throughout the year with Trayvon Diggs. And in terms of our offense and your defense, I think you hit the nail on the head. I do think that if you guys are able to create pressure up front, create pressure in the interior, it could give our interior a ton of problems, because Vita Vea basically took care of business in the last time we played you guys. But man, like, all the signs point to us getting our revenge. All the signs point to us, based off your injuries, based off how we've been playing recently, based off our offense kind of refining their identity, that I think we're going to win. So, again, you had Corey say it too, so all the people in the comments can't really call me biased, but we'll have Bills and Titans meeting up in the AFC Championship, and Cowboys Packers meeting up in the NFC Championship. Already getting flashbacks of 2014 and 16, by the way.
Yeah, and by the way, just for what it's worth, I took the Saints to beat the Bucs last year in the divisional round, and the Bucs won the Super Bowl. So hopefully, by reverse jinxing my own team again in the divisional round, we win the Super Bowl again. But let's start with the AFC side of things. Bills and Titans, AFC Championship. This one's tough, man, because the Bills, again, they match up horribly with the Titans, because Derrick Henry exposed them the last time they played him. Jonathan Taylor exposed them. Leonard Fournette exposed them. The Patriots running back exposed them.
Damon Harris.
The running game of the Titans could definitely win this game for Tennessee. 3 touchdowns, 143 rushing yards for Derrick Henry the first time that these two teams played this year. I think the Titans win this game.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I mean, like, again, from a matchup standpoint, what do the Bills do the best offensively? Throw the ball down the field. What have the Titans been really good at limiting this year? Opposing teams being able to throw the ball at will on them. Like, again, you mentioned top 10 in terms of DVOA. Like, this has been a very good performing Titans defense. And obviously, when you have Kevin Byard on the back end kind of patrolling everything, it helps out a lot. And again, the Bills have shown in critical spots this year to be soft. to be soft. And the one thing you don't want to do when you're playing Derrick Henry is, guess what? Show any type of signs of being soft, because Derrick Henry has the ability to legitimately change the whole outcome of this game. And again, we mentioned Vrabel and Matt LaFleur being the two most fundamentally sound coached teams. If Derrick Henry gets going and this Titans offense becomes physical, like, they're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to, have holding calls, have missed blocking assignments, turn the ball over. And we know if Derrick Henry starts getting going, guess what? That's going to mean Ryan Tannehill gets going. That's going to mean AJ Brown gets going, because that is the bread and butter of the Titans, is being able to get Derrick Henry going and ultimately stretching a defense out with the play action game. And I'd see nothing being really different here in terms of what we saw in the first matchup between these two teams.
Right. And in that first matchup, we had Tre'Davious White, who's no longer on the Buffalo Bills, to take away one of, AJ Brown. And also, I mean, Julio Jones still exists. Like, I know he hasn't been good this year and he's been banged up, but he could show up in the play. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if this is like the healthiest Julio Jones has been all year. And we see the Julio Jones that we were supposed to see during the season. He just scored his first touchdown as a Titan last week, and we could see him have like a nice little playoff run en route to a Titans like Super Bowl appearance, which is basically what we're predicting here. And he is, every bit as capable of being the Julio Jones we've seen the last couple of years, as long as he's healthy right now. So yeah, the Titans, again, things are aligning for them at the perfect time. All their guys are healthy, so on and so forth, similar to what we saw with Tampa Bay last year and what we're also seeing with the Cowboys on the NFC side of things. And we'll go to that game right now. Cowboys versus Packers. Again, the calling cards of each of these teams. Cowboys have a lot of team speed on both offense and defense. Packers are very fundamentally sound. They're not going to throw interceptions, not going to fumble the ball. They're going to create takeaways, as will the Cowboys on the defensive side of the ball as well. But the problem for the Cowboys is when they've been at their best on defense, it's because of takeaways. And how Aaron Rodgers has played this year and how the Packers offense has played this year, they don't tend to make a lot of like risky plays, take a lot of bad risks. So capitalizing on whatever limited opportunities that they do get for takeaways for the Cowboys will probably be a big part of this game if this were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree here. Again, I'll kind of take your cue where you reverse jinx the Bucs. I'll reverse jinx the Cowboys here. Listen, like, again, this is a team that, quite frankly, Aaron Rodgers has been able to slice and dice in recent games. Now, am I going to completely take the history of this matchup into account? No, because again, this 2021 Dallas Cowboys, this 2021 Green Bay Packers teams are completely different teams to what we've seen in the past. However, betting against Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau with the limitations in terms of takeaways that could be available for our defense could pose a good amount of trouble. Now, again, if the Cowboys make it this far, I still have a good amount of hope that they will be on the run. They will be playing their best ball. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that if the Cowboys are playing at their ceiling, I genuinely think that they could be the best team in the NFL. However, again, the Packers are the most consistent team in the league. They're playing at home. They have Aaron freaking Rodgers, and they haven't made the Super Bowl since 2009. This is the year that they make it back. So I do think that, unfortunately for my Cowboys, we will go and give the edge to the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And the last dance memes that Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers put out in the beginning of the season will definitely be coming home to roost if this were to happen. Now, pretty boring that we have both of the 1 seeds in the Super Bowl. Like, I know, like, we didn't intend it that way. It's, again, the NFL playoffs is a game of matchups. And specifically for the Bills, like, the Titans is who they do not want to see in the AFC Championship, because they match up terribly with the Bills. And I think same goes for the Cowboys. You don't want to see the Packers in the NFC Championship. You would much rather see the Rams or the Bucs, but I guess the Bucs you'll have to play in the divisional round. You'd much rather see the Rams, because the Rams will give you way more takeaway opportunities for your defense than what the Packers will present you with. So this is the Super Bowl as we currently have it slated right now. Packers versus Titans. Where are you leaning?
Green Bay wins and Aaron Rodgers gets his second ring.
Got any reason why?
Sorry, I realized now that you were talking to Josie, I was going to let you input, but yeah, I mean, again, this is a fundamentally sound team. Obviously, we know both these teams that we've been echoing all this bracket that they're very, very fundamentally sound, very, very well coached, very, very, mistake-free type of football. But we're talking about dynamic ability. We're comparing as good as Ryan Tannehill, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry is, and we look at the Packers and we see Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. I think if we're going to talk about superstar ability, superstar talent, the Packers just have way more game-changing type of players on their team comparatively to the Titans. And if both teams are projected to be fundamentally sound, give me the team that has a player that can turn the matchup on their head, and which I do think that the Packers have more of.
Yep. I don't disagree with that at all. I think the Packers too. The one thing that could be stated for the Packers is that their defense has been, really, really good. It's been as good as it's been in Aaron Rodgers' entire career, I think, ever since the first Super Bowl that they won. Yeah, because they haven't had Alexander all year. They've missed some of their defensive front pieces, and they've still been one of the best defenses in the league in terms of pass defense DVOA. They currently rank number 15, and then rush defense DVOA. They're a little bit worse. Obviously, they've been more susceptible to run, which is why the Titans might have a good chance in this game, because Derrick Henry could get going. But again, the Titans are more so a team that needs to play with a lead, I would say, comparatively to the Packers. I think the Packers, whether they have a lead early or they are down early, they can play well from both aspects because they can also run the ball with a big 240-pound running back in the playoffs as well with A.J. Dillon and of course, Aaron Jones. So they're a little bit more multifaceted, which is why I tend to think that this could be their year. Last dance memes, cue the celebration, because I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers retires if this happens. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, Devontae Adams leaves Green Bay. I tend to think winning cures all. And if this happens, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't retire, I think both him and Adams would be back in Green Bay if this were to happen.
For sure. And again, if you guys have made it this far in the video, if you enjoyed so far, make sure you leave a like down below. It helps us grow in that YouTube algorithm. And as always, subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. And again, if you've made it this far, comment down below either your playoff predictions, your favorite upset pick in round one, or if you think that Packers winning the Super Bowl would cure all. Appreciate you guys for making this far, about 42 minutes in, and enjoy the playoffs. Peace out.